Hey everybody, how's it going? Tampere here and welcome back to Bixton. It's been a very mild winter this year. We're already into March and this is the very first snow this year. It's always been rain, there's been no snow at all until now. And at this point, I don't suspect the winter is going to be very long because we're heading into April, which is almost the start of spring. And I don't anticipate there being much snow more than this, which is good. So in this episode, guys, I'm going to be getting into something that I've been wanting to get into for quite some time, and that is operating districts. So right now, the city is, oh, wait a minute, I went into the wrong tool there. Yeah, so right now, only part of the city is divided up into different districts, and we have Sunnyside over here, which is its own district. So in an effort to better organize the city, and maybe, you know, optimize some of our essential services in the city, I'm going to be continuing to divide up this entire map, or at least what we have so far. Oh yeah, I forgot Les Deux Lacs has its own zone as well. So yeah, this episode I'm going to be dividing up the entire map, well, basically what we have bought up so far, into different districts, and I may go and change some of my, you know, maybe some schools to only operate in some districts or hospitals, because I think a lot of what is happening now is, for example, I have the main city hospital here in downtown Bixton is often going to pick up patients that are like way across the bay in Auburn, which, you know, is okay, I guess, but it's not the best, most optimal way to do things. Now, it can actually cause problems for certain essential services like, you know, death care, and, you know, that's fine, but it can also cause issues, especially when an ambulance has to go pick up a sick patient, right, who may not be able to live through another hour of driving through rush hour. So what I'm going to start by doing first is I'm going to start to divide up the entire map into different districts. So I'm going to start off over here in the Quincy Harbor area. So I'll start off in live play to give you guys a good idea of what's going on here. And, you know, I'm not going to make you watch me do this entire map because it's literally going to take me an hour. So I'm going to start off with one corner of the map, and then I'll go into time-lapse mode a bit later. So Quincy Harbor, you know, much like Bixton, I think I'm going to divide up into multiple districts. And I'm going to be mindful of where all my services are. So in downtown, for example, you know, we have an elementary school. I think we have a hospital somewhere. It's kind of hard to see under all of this snow. But I think we have a clinic. Oh yeah, here it is. We have a medical clinic, which, okay, is not very full. So anyways, I just want to be mindful to not, you know, to forget to include some services in a particular area. So I think we're good here if I start maybe in this area. So I'm gonna make downtown Quincy Harbor its own district, just because it is quite dense. You know, it's an old historical city, and at one point, you know, this district that I'm building right now would have probably encompassed the entire city. And then as, you know, little towns and stuff get amalgamated and, you know, kind of grow into the main city, they then, you know, form like one giant city. So let's do this. Let's call this Quincy Harbor. Oh, Harbor Center, I suppose. And then, I guess we'll just do the rest of the city into to one big zone, I suppose. Probably like all of this could be the actual city of Quincy Harbor. So let's have this little creek here be our demarcation line. And then one thing that I want to be cognizant of as well is I don't want to make highways any like big demarcation zone, just because, you know, highways are relatively new, right, compared to the age of like the entire city. So I'm just gonna assume that a lot of these zones were decided long before the highways were here. Now, I think what I'll do for Quincy Harbor is I'm going to include this lake within this border, because cities often have very weird, arbitrary borders that kind of include a lot of land outside of the city. A lot of smaller cities tend to have that anyway. Actually, I think I'm going to end it here. And then I'll have this zone coming up to here to include all of these homes. And then we'll include half of this lake. And then whatever is on the other side of this lake slash river slash bay will be its own entity. So then let's include all of this. Oh yeah, and another thing I typically do is sometimes this, you know, district tool doesn't quite snap very well. Like, I mean, this is quite obviously a corner and it's just not snapping. So what I'll do here is I'll just enable anarchy and, you know, kind of cheat my way through it a little bit. So then let's rename this into actual, like, Quincy Harbor. There we go. And then we'll create one more district that encompasses all of this land, I suppose. It's gonna make for a pretty interesting border. And there we go. What kind of name are we gonna get for this district? We got Thornton Peak. Well, I think we're just gonna remove the Peak, and Thornton seems like a very fitting name for this district, because it's, you know, very agricultural focused and whatnot. So cool. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna make sure that all of our services are operating within these zones here. And I'm really sorry, guys, if it's very difficult to see what's going on because of the snow. But, you know, I don't suspect it'll last for much longer because we're already into spring, like I was saying. So what we'll have to do now is basically go down to almost street level, and then we're going to have to pick out... Oh my god, what is going on here, guys? What kind of accident happens, like, within a town that leaves cars just flown all over a neighborhood? Look at this. We have a bike that's tipped over in somebody's backyard. We have some sort of vehicle inside someone's house, a bunch of vehicles sideways. Oh my god, this is a terrible day here in Bixton. Quincy Harbor, sorry. Like, the whole accident is like an entire block. That's pretty wild. Okay, so anyways, let's go over to this elementary school that is just across the street, and then we will assign it some operating districts. Now, I don't want to be too strict with this because, you know, for example, let's just check our demographics here to be sure. So there is 19,000 people living within this district alone, which is quite a lot for a small district. And, you know, we have 5,000 children. So more than enough to fill this one school, right? So, I mean, this already lets me know that I need multiple schools to fill in the demand for, you know, for elementary schools. But I have to be careful because in some districts, it might be the opposite. Whereas a school might be full, but maybe all of the students are coming from an adjacent district, and then maybe the actual district that the school is in doesn't have enough to fill the school. I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to explain here. So I really want to be mindful before actually only allowing an essential services. So in this case here, I'm okay to assign only this district this school. Right? We have more than enough. In fact, you know, I could even go as far as plopping... Well, I don't think an urban elementary school is going to fit very well. It's just a massive old building, but maybe a small elementary school we can squeeze in here somewhere. It's not going to make much of a difference, to be honest, because we're just so way above capacity. But, you know, what I may be able to do in this case is allow neighboring schools that are not too far to operate within multiple districts. Right, so I don't want to block out all of these schools that are in Quincy Harbor from going downtown, because downtown is just does not have anywhere near the capacity. Neither does anywhere else, but you know, it could in certain areas. Now the main takeaway is I just don't want students from downtown driving all the way to Quincy Harbor to go to school. That is really what I'm trying to avoid. So I guess for now I'm going to start with schools. Hopefully I don't miss any, because there's quite a few. But I also want to apply all of these settings to, you know, fire stations, hospitals, different things like that. Now it's going to be a painstaking task because, you know, this is something that I should have done as soon as I started the city. But, you know, as you can see, the city is at a massive state now, and it's just going to be a very slow and, you know, painstaking task to complete all of these essential services, you know, schools, hospitals, police stations, all of that. But I at least just want to get started on a couple of districts, show you guys how it's done, and then I'll probably just go into time-lapse mode for the rest of this episode at some point, until the entire city is done. So let's continue on. Let's finish up with Western Bixton before moving on. Okay, this is kind of a weird border. I think the edge of the map was here at some point. So what I'll do here is, oh geez, this is all connected. Okay, well, what I'll do here is I will make this main avenue into our demarcation point, and then I'll just continue on just like this. Now it's kind of too bad that I don't own these squares, but at this point I really can't afford any additional tiles, so I'm just gonna keep this as is. Oh, gotta turn anarchy back on. And there we go. What kind of name do we get here? Evergreen. I think I'm just gonna rename this to West Bixton, because I often refer to this to like Western Bixton, so this is the official name of this place. So yeah, we got most of the city now. Very nice. Let's actually head on over here to Sunnyside. This is an easy one. I can get this done really quickly. So, oh wow, this school isn't even full. Okay, which is great. So, of course, I don't want any students from elsewhere to be clogging up this school, so I'm just going to reserve it to Sunnyside, and if ever I decide to expand the city, or if there's just a random influx of children for whatever reason, then, you know, they'll only be contained to Sunnyside. And then I can apply that very same logic to the high school. Kind of hard to see when you have a zone that big if I actually applied it or not. Sometimes it takes a couple clicks for some reason. And then we'll do the same for our police station. Okay, there we go. And then maybe even our crematorium. And then let's do the same thing for our new medical clinic that we just plopped last episode of Bixton. And there we go. Yeah, just double checking if it was actually done. So that's the idea, guys. It's really just going through all of these separate districts and setting the services to operate within them. So this is going to be a painstaking task because I plopped down so many schools despite being way under capacity. And just look at the sheer number of educational institutions that we have in the entire map now. It's crazy. So let's head on over to Auburn now. I'd like to get started on Auburn just because it's the main city on this map. And let's make it so it has some interesting borders, you know. Maybe we can include these islands. within our border. Here, we'll make it like half of the bay. And then what's going to be our demarc? Maybe this road here, because it kind of splits the city in two. And then I think what I'll do here is just follow the edge of the map, just like this. Just like that. Might as well go right to the edge of the entire map. Yeah, that looks kind of cool. It kind of looks like Toronto's, you know, city borders. Auburn. Now I think, so this is obviously like a huge zone, and I didn't apply that same logic to Bixton. You know, Bixton is divided up into these little squares. I don't really know what the best approach is, to be honest. I guess this can serve as a test because there's certainly going to be a ton of hospitals and schools within this one zone. So yeah, I'm really not sure what the best approach is. I could also do, you know, zones within zones using anarchy. You know, just as an example here, I can use anarchy to create a zone within a zone. But I don't know. I don't think it's necessary. I'm gonna start off with this big zone here, and you know, we'll see how it turns out. It'll just save me a little bit of work anyways, because most of these schools are going to operate within multiple districts anyways, so it'll just save you from doing a few extra clicks. So let's head on over to this side of the map in eastern Bixton, and then let's start dividing this area up. So I'll make this side of this main street here into one district. And I guess I guess I'll include all of this. You know, this is pretty much the border of the map. Oh, it looks like we have a pretty weird border there, but that's okay. There, so let's do that. And then what kind of name do we have? Chestnut Grove. Let's call it like Fairview, maybe, because we do have some pretty nice views from up top here. You know, these houses are all up on a hill. They have beautiful views of the bay. You can see a good view of Sunnyside over there, so it's what I would call a fair view. And then what I'll do is just readjust these borders to make a bit more sense, you know. So I guess the highway is going to be a demarc for these districts, which is fine, you know. And then let's carry on. Let's build our next district. From here, we'll divide this lake in two, and then we'll have, you know, kind of a weird border going through this little creek. And then here we are at the very edge of the map, so I'm just gonna follow the border of the map. Oh, I can't even go all the way to the edge, but I can, yeah, I'll just stop the district here. And look at that, we got 4 separate districts intersecting with each other over here. Pretty interesting. What kind of name? Concord? I think we already have a district that's named Concord. Oh geez, I don't even know, guys. I wish it was a randomizer. That would be great. What do we call this? I don't even know. Maybe it's kind of like on a valley. Let's call it Valley Field. There. A little bit of Montreal influence there. Oh my god, guys. Holy, look at this. We have a crazy amount of sick people all of a sudden. You know, I think this might be part of the game's rebalancing. I think the city's still kind of working its quirks out. Probably to get more patients into the hospitals, I assume, because, you know, since the game's been out, my hospitals have always been, you know, really empty. So I think that's what it is. It might be not that at all, but who knows. Anyways, guys, so I am going to go into time-lapse mode here, and we'll finish up dividing this map, and then we'll start applying some policies to different regions. Well, guys, if this is the last of winter that we're going to experience in Bixton this year, I am totally for it. You know, a little bit of snow never hurt, but any more than that, I'm good. All right, so I covered basically, well, not quite, but most of the map under a blanket of different districts. And now the next step is to go literally but one by one and decide what is going to function where. So I think what I'll do on camera, since again, this is going to be such a painstaking task, I'm just going to go through the smaller parts of this map. So, you know, we've done Sunnyside, we've done Quincy Harbor. Now let's just go through Les Deux Lacs, and I'm basically just going to give you an example of what's going to go on here. So I have this elementary school here. Is there... Okay, yeah, it's fully upgraded. And then I have another one here. So both of these are completely fill. Okay. What kind of capacity do we really need? It's crazy. This is just a small town. So we can actually tell. So right now we have not a lot of residents within this tiny zone. We only have 1,855, 500 of which are children. But then if I look at these two zones here, so we have Birchbrook, which has 1,300 people, 400 of which are eligible for school, elementary school. And then over here, okay, so you see what's happening here. Both of these schools are more than enough to support this entire town. So what's happening is a lot of students are probably coming from these neighboring neighborhoods over here in Archer Terrace, over here in Ivy. You know, these are just some of the new districts that I just built. So this is a perfect example of what I was speaking about earlier. So what I'm going to do is just allow this school to operate within these three districts. So these three districts are, you know, whatever is going to encompass Les Deux Lacs. Les Deux Lacs is going to expand quite a bit. Like, as you can see, I have a ton of room here to build out. So, you know, we're going to plot more schools as the city expands. So as you can see, there's going to be a little bit of cross-districtability here, for lack of a better term. And, you know, by doing so, I think these schools are going to be, you know, under capacity, which is good for Les Deux Lacs, but it's not really good for the entire system as a whole. That means that there's some districts that are just so way beyond what, you know, I can handle. So that is literally just going to be a matter of going one by one, you know. So this district here, which is quite large, all of this only has, you know, 596 children. And, you know, we have this one school here. So I'm going to go ahead and only allow it to operate within this district. So right now I'm only touching schools. But, you know, like here in Chester, we have 2,500 people, 777 of which are children eligible for school. So I'm going to go here, select only this operating district. And, oh, it appears, is this school in any district? It is. Okay, so I guess I'll just leave this school to be future-proof, but I'm going to limit it to Archer Terrace as well. Yeah, so as you can imagine, guys, this is going to be a very arduous task. So again, that's just schools. We also have our hospitals. Where is the clinic here? Oh, here it is. Now, we only have 19 out of 100 patients. You know, so I'm just going to contain the service between these zones. You can also do the same for the high school, which still has a ton of room. And there we have it. And then we also have police service, which I don't even... No, that's a post office. Can we do the same for a post office? Oh yeah, we can. You know, ideally you would want to do it for every single type of service in the game, except maybe like garbage management, or you probably do want to do it with garbage management as well, if you really want your city to operate efficiently. So anyways, guys, I won't bore you with too much of this. You know, for some this might be a little bit of a boring episode since we didn't necessarily build anything. But, you know, I think for some people it might be interesting. I hope. So if it was interesting for you, drop a like. Let me know what you think about this episode. A little bit different. But, you know, I'm certainly having fun. You know, despite it being an overwhelming task that I have ahead of me. But it's going to be interesting. And I'll be sure to go over the results once I'm all done here. Not in this episode, but maybe in the next one. Once we have, you know, because I'm not really sure how things are going to work out. Like if I by only allowing these 2 schools to operate within these 3 districts, I'm essentially locking out probably like half of each school. So I'm curious to know, you know, are the students just going to be relocated into another school? I guess schools are kind of a bad example because they're just full everywhere, but maybe, you know, hospitals might be a good example. You know, there might be 5 patients in this hospital that are from neighboring districts. So who knows what's going to happen to them? Are they going to be transferred to new hospitals? I don't know, but I'll be sure to document the process for a couple of buildings throughout the city, and I'll report probably in the next episode of Bixton. So that'll be it for me for this episode. I really appreciate you guys watching. Like I said earlier, drop a like, drop a comment, and certainly don't forget to subscribe to the channel to get notified of future uploads. I really appreciate you guys. And until the next episode, take care.